Political Analyst Nic Boraine joining me now to discuss this. And Nic, a very good morning to you. How exactly would you then fix the issues such as policy? I would imagine that economic policy is going to be a very hot topic. Morning, would you agree?
Very much so. I think if you examined your Sunday papers, you'd have seen separate articles, clearly scripted though, by Gwede Mantashe, Jeff Radebe, and one or two other key ANC leaders, outlining what they thought the important issues that were at their conference, and they specifically said it's not the leadership battle, it is the economic policy shifts that we believe we need to make if we are to solve the underlying structural features of unemployment, poverty, inequality, and the racial overlay of the same.
At an elective conference like this, just by mere wording, the elective conference, how much do you think policy is actually going to be changed, if at all it needs to?
Look, many of the changes are already out there. They are emerging out of the National General Council in November 2010, and certainly the policy conference of June this year, the fourth ANC policy conference. And there's a whole set of proposals that are going into Mangaung where they will be essentially rubber stamped. I think there's going to be dispute about a lot of the details. I think that the nationalization of mines stuff is still not resolved, and we'll see a bit of a friction about that in the conference. But remember, this is 5,500 people, 99.9% of whom has never run a business, have only ever had a job in a state institution or an NGO, and they're going to be discussing the hugely kind of underlying practical questions of how to run an economy. It's not the ideal forum to do so, and it's not representative even of its own party, and certainly not of the government's ability to discuss economic policy.
The name of Cyril Ramaphosa certainly has come forward, Nic. If you're going to be discussing, for example, the economy and policies regarding the economy, some are suggesting as a deputy president, he's someone who you would look to as far as business is concerned. Is that a fair comment?
I think Cyril Ramaphosa, certainly during the Marikana crisis, showed himself to be very much on business's side in trying to resolve that conflict and working certainly with the companies within which he had an interest in relation to what was going on. Personally, I think that I've always felt that Cyril Ramaphosa and the eye of the needle would be a bit appropriate, that the ANC might find it difficult to elect such a wealthy individual. However, he was Mandela and Slovo's favorite son, and they wanted him for president when Thabo Mbeki got it. Will he bring a profound business insight into running government? Yes, partly. A lot of his business has been the kind of business that you get as a result of the imperatives to transform the economy, to shift equity from foreign and white hands into black hands. At least some of the at least a significant portion of the wealth he has accumulated has been a result of those processes, and not as a result of some kind of profound entrepreneurial spirit.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room if we can. Nic, the word I throw to you is that of nationalization. What do you make of that? You combine with Mangaung, what do you make of this?
Look, the nationalization thing has become associated with Julius Malema. Julius Malema has been defeated. He used nationalization because of its deep echo that it was able to receive from most South Africans, who I think look at the mines and say, why is this stuff draining out of the country to foreigners and whites? Why are we not getting our share of it? It seems profoundly unfair. He hit that, and I think it really got a lot of traction. The ANC has done everything it can to come up with a set of policies that says, no, we don't want to take the stuff. We don't want to own the mines. We can achieve all the ends without owning it. The state involvement in the mining sector document is very much that. It's a direct repudiation of nationalization. However, if you read it carefully, they are obliging the mining companies to do a whole range of things in the national interest. They are also intending to increase the taxation of those mines. That is ultimately, indirectly, a kind of nationalization by stealth, when a private asset is deployed by government in a national interest through a whole lot of regulations and whatever. So nationalization is gone, and certainly the scary form that Julius Malema was punting. But state control with the purposes of stimulating domestic manufacturing ultimately is very much on the agenda.
Nic, just as a final question to you, I am running a little tight on time. I would like to ask you this, though, as a final question, as briefly as you can, if you don't mind at all. Should Kgalema Motlanthe accept a deal?
Look, it's a difficult one. I think the Zuma camp is entirely in control of the process. It has only one imperative: which successor is going to keep the corruption charges at bay and allow us ultimately to hang on to the accumulated assets we've hung on to. Would that be Kgalema Motlanthe or Cyril Ramaphosa? I think it's a difficult call. My very personal view is I think Cyril Ramaphosa pursuing his instinctive need for a legacy and the constitution and the law might end up in conflict with the now retired Zuma. I think Kgalema Motlanthe is less likely to. I think he hates to divide the house. I think his instinct is he would like to go and teach. So Zuma has the option of a last-minute compromise of saying, give it to Kgalema Motlanthe. It's a unity action, which then ultimately ends up meaning that the Cyril Ramaphosa was a ploy.
All right, Nic, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. Political analyst Nic Boraine from our Cape Town studios. We'll hear from Nic again, no doubts, over the next few weeks.